What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Salah Trades. Weather is nice. I'm feeling good. We had a good day in the market. Felt like I should come on and recap some of these trades because the market is starting to give us these nice moves again. Without further ado, let's get right into it with the best trade of the day being NCMI. So right off the bat, right when the market opens, I noticed a lot of the small cap names were kind of putting in a little move and kind of flushing down. And NCMI was one that I had on watch because although we did flush in the pre-market, we didn't really flush anymore into the open, and that kind of told me that NCMI was having some relative strength compared to the other small cap names that were on the top gainers list. So I decided to put my focus in on NCMI, and I decided to wait and see if I could find a trade that would fit for me on this name. So right off the bat, I noticed we had this, pre-market downtrend here, and coming into the open, we started to curl. We finally break over this downtrend. We get a close over it on this candle by like barely. We get another close on it with this doji. And then on this third candle right here is when I decide to enter because this was our clearest hold of this trend line. And I decided to risk the EMA9 because normally once you get over a trend line or something, that EMA9 is most of the time it is going to act as support, and that's what I anticipated. So I decided to put my risk right off the EMA9. So I got long right on this candle at 33.4. We end up getting a push into 35s. Didn't peel any off. Didn't want to, I wasn't in this for the 1 cent, 2 cent move. I was looking for that move into the pre-market highs of 40 cents. Next candle opens up. We flush right through the EMA into 32s. I take it off, immediately. And then once we reclaim, literally right when we reclaim and we open back over this EMA9, I literally put it right back on. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Let me chill. I found this so before this zone was in here, I found this 4-hour zone after kind of looking at the chart really quick. And that's how I was like, okay, you know what? I'll build a little position over this 4-hour zone, and then we'll see if we get a setup that maybe I can add into. And then that would kind of relay into these two ads over here. So before I move any further, let me get into the zone that I was talking about and why I decided to continue adding and holding this, even though there really was nothing telling me, hey, this is going to go. So if you go to your 4-hour chart, I like to use wick to body zones. I'll get this out of here, do it fresh for you guys. So we have this wick right here and it goes to the body. This is all I'm going to do. I'm going to take a rectangle, I'm going to connect it to the wick, to the body, and I call these wick to body zones. Some people might refer to them as supply and demand, but it's not really the same way to find it. Supply and demand, you would use rally based drop, drop based rally, rally based rally, etc. These zones are just literally wick to body zones, and I find them to be very useful with finding areas of support and also finding areas to scale out into or finding areas to scale into. And I'll get into the example right here of what I seen here. So fast forward, I have my first ad here. We ended up getting a pop into like 36s. I didn't take any off right here. Like I told you guys, I wasn't looking for a 1 or 2 cent move. I was looking for this name to open up. Everything else at the time was coming down or either setting up and failing. And this one wasn't really doing anything. It was holding its level and it was kind of trading sideways. And that still gave me that feeling of, hey, maybe there's some relative strength here. I'm going to keep my focus on this name specifically. So fast forward a few more minutes and we end up forming a 5-minute flag right over that 4-hour zone. This is the 4-hour zone right here. You could see on the previous days we came up to this zone, we got knocked down once again here, again, and so on. So this all here, once I seen it, then I seen the 4-hour zone. This told me like, hey, this is a significant level. If we can possibly get over this level, there's maybe a high probability that we're going to continue higher, right? So I noticed the flag setting up. It wasn't really the cleanest VPA, but it did have the flag look. I knew the bidders were very consistent on this one. Every time we did come down, I noticed it wasn't one heavy bidder. I don't like to see one heavy bidder. I like to see consistent bidding. So what that means is if we come down into a pivot, I like to see maybe 20, 20, 20, 30, 30, 30, 10, 15, 25. I don't like to just see 150. The reason for that is because if you have just one big bidder on the tape, that bidder can pull their order And if there's no other, bidders supporting the price beneath that bid order, that huge bid order that's on the tape, there's a high probability that price is just going to fall right through and, fall to your next set of bidders, whether that's going to be 5 cents away, 4 cents away, or maybe 1 cent away. So I always like to see consistent bidding. I like to see people consistently bidding at the price, whether it's in 10 increments, 20, 30, 40, 50. Just like to see a couple of them. Anyways, moving on. Got a little sidetracked there, but notice the flag look right here. Started adding into the flag look, knew what I was risking, which was going to be VWAP, also the lower end of my zone. So we get long over here. We get 33, I think it was 33.4 average total. We get a nice move here through morning highs into 37. Start peeling some off here. Why? Because this was our pre-market level right here. I don't have the pivot drawn, but I can go ahead and put it out for you guys right here. You guys can clearly see that, this body was a support line. We ended up confirming it as resistance here. And then we came up into that level later. We did come up and hold that level, but that's why I did take the scale out right here. We did get the move, into our pre-market highs. It started peeling off into the pre-market highs heavily. I'm just, dripping my position as we move higher. We get a little extension here into 40, 44, start peeling more off. We get a new high here, 45, didn't take any off. I was on my last piece and I was like, okay, you know what? I want to hold this because if we get an extension, I want this last piece to be worth it. And we end up coming down right here. We end up trying to flag, but then we get knifed. We fall through the EMA 9. We then close below the EMA 9, confirming it as resistance. And normally when this happens, it's usually a signal of a trend reversal. Normally the EMA 9 should act as a trade line and, kind of support the trade the whole way like it did over here. And normally when you get the break below and then confirm it as resistance, there's a high probability that the, name might start fading off, or it might be the start of a downtrend. And so I decided to close my runners out here and wait for a reclaim of the zone if it did come. Fast forward a few seconds later, we end up getting a reclaim of the zone right over here. We put in this flag look, wasn't really the cleanest, with these wicks. We also have these, volume bars. They weren't really matching what you want to see in a flag setup, but I still decided to take it. It was very low risk. I got 38.9 average, risking 38.5s. So risk was very minimal, right in the zone. It was a really nice trade. As soon as I got long, we get a nice move into 40s, peel some off in a 40s. We get a move here in a 43s, peel more off there. And then we get a move up here. And this is where I started peeling more right through the highs over here. And then once I noticed these two wicks to the bodies, I literally just do the same thing. I jot down my wick to body zone. So just like this, wick to body. You just extend it a day on both ends. It gets stretched across the screen. Now you have a new wick to body zone to go off of. So now this is kind of like my new supply in a way. We end up flagging off this level. Not the cleanest VPA on this candle, but it did end up working out. Another thing, and I'll mention it again, we had consistent bidding on this name. Bidders were very strong. The tape was very strong. They were soaking all the dips, and that was making me confident. That was telling me, hey, there's momentum here. There's a high probability this name is going to open up. So I added more on this flag look over here. We get a pop through these highs, through this zone, and now I'm basically looking for this zone to hold. So we get a pop, we start moving into 50s, peeling more into 50s, peeled more here into 54s. We hit a high of 55 on this candle. I was peeling into 54s. And then we kind of just hold over our zone. You see how we don't really come down and fade. We didn't really set up here. We kind of just consolidate for a second. So if you did want to look at this from a supply and demand standpoint, you could say rally, base, rally, confirm this area as demand. But that's not how I use it. You can look at that. You can look at it that way, but I just don't use them that way. I look at them as areas of support. Support's never going to be one price. It's always going to be an area, and these wick to body zones just help me identify those areas. It's what works for me, so I just like to continue to do it because it works for me. Anyways, we start holding over this level. I didn't get any more ads in. However, this would have been a great time to start scaling some more in. We end up getting a nice sharp rise all the way in the 60s. Peeled some off here in the 60s. I did have a limit down here at 58, so this is part of that. Got my limit hit at 58. Got some scales down in the 60s. And then right here, I actually stepped away to go deal with a broken branch that we had in the backyard from a storm we got a couple days ago. and I actually sold the remaining of my position here on Mobil at 64.3. Shortly later, I got back to my desk and I noticed I, nailed the top, was very excited about it, started sharing it in chat. Also found out that Mikey nailed the top short. So it was pretty exciting. He nailed the top short. I nailed the top on my long. So really, really cool there. And then this name kind of just faded off all day. And we really, we're trying to come back up here. But even this zone now, like if you guys look at this, we break over the zone, we hold over the zone, we push, we come down, we hold the zone, we break below, we can't break back above. And now look, when we come to test this zone here in the after hours, we can't get above it. So now what I'm going to look for is a reclaim in this zone or over this zone. And then maybe, if we get some kind of setup, maybe I like what I see on the volume or the tape, maybe I put some on and we see where it goes. But that's NCMI. I think total it was like a 60% trade if I'm not mistaken, from here to up here. Well, that's 102%. That's not right because I didn't make 102% on this. First trade that I got in it was 20%. Second trade I got in it was 44%. I think that amounts to something like 60-some% if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that, but that's just my rough estimate. Next trade on the day would have been GCTK. Really, really nice one here. I was talking with Mikey in the Underdogs chat, and I'm like, hey, I see we got this 5-minute flag, but I think this thing's probably going to do what it did here. It's going to rip into highs and then sell off. Did it again here, sold off. Tried to do it here, and then gave us that flag look. Overall, there was really not much volume here. There was not much volume at all. There was really no like crazy bidding on the tape. It was consistent, but it wasn't anything crazy. And I decided to take a stab at it. I took a stab at it here at 208, risking $2 right around this VWAP area that lined up with our $2 pivot. And literally as soon as I entered, bidder stepped in on the tape. It was really, really wild. I watched it. As soon as I entered, bidder stepped in on the tape. We get this massive move into high a day. I peeled some off into 220s. Excuse me. Then we get this massive move here into 240s. I peeled some more off here. And then we squeeze here through 250s, which is actually a level from a couple days ago in the after hours right over here. I'm sorry, right over here. It's actually a 4-hour level because it drags across my whole screen. Let's go find out where that level came from. 250 level all the way from right here. You guys could see it right over here. So that's where I got that 250 level from on my 4-hour. Right when we came up into that level, I decided to sell the remaining piece of my position. And one of the reasons why I did sell the remaining piece of my position is because I'm not going to be greedy when a stock like this just puts a screw you move. I was risking like 8 cents and this just gave me like 40 cents. I'm not going to be greedy. I'm not going to be that guy who says, oh, hey, how much higher can this go? Like, I don't give a shit. This thing just gave me 40 cents and I was only risking 8. I'm going to take those profits and I'm going to run. I'm going to look for the next trade. Yeah, it ended up hitting a high of like 280, but it is what it is. I was happy with my gains. I took them and I moved on with my day. But just to give you a quick recap, nice high volume push, low volume pullback into pivot, EMA 9 plus VWAP plus lower trend line. And those bidders stepped in out of nowhere. It was really a right place, right time kind of trade for me. Happy I got in it and happy I exited the way I did. Next trade on the day would be Lucy. Lucy, really, really clean, simple 5-minute flag trade here. We have this 5-minute wick to body zone that I plotted right here. Then I looked left and I noticed that we did come up to this zone a few times previously, or I should say this level, and we ended up selling off. So one reason why I took my profits the way I did on Lucy is because I looked left and noticed, hey, every time we push up, we sell off. Push up, 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 sell off. So I knew that if I was going to trade this name, I was going to trade it, I was going to get my profits, and I was going to move on about my day. This is not a name that I'm going to sit here for hours in and try to catch the whole move. For example, like NCMI, I was comfortable because it was showing me that there's bidders there, it was showing me there's momentum, etc. So really quickly, we get a nice break through this zone over here that I had plotted down. We get a nice high volume push through it, and we get a nice low volume pullback, creating this 5-minute flag over our EMA and over our 438, 435 area pivot. I got long at $4.42, risking $4.40, 2 cent risk. We end up getting a nice move here into 450s. peeled some off into 450s. Then when we got the follow through move into new high a day into 460s, I peeled the rest of my position off at $4.69. Me and RGV did that because, you know, we thought we'd be funny, whatever. We took our remaining piece off there at 469 right up here. So a really nice trade. Like I said, I didn't overstay my welcome. And, you know, right when it showed me profits, I took those profits and I moved on about my day. Like, just imagine I sat in here and then we get this flush all the way down to 445. And I'm basically break even. I'd feel like the biggest idiot. So I'm very happy with how I played this name. I'm very happy that I took my profits the way I did. And I'm very happy that I looked left and noticed that every time we come up, we sell off even harder. And that's really what influenced me to trade it the way I did. So with that being said, always look left, guys. It's very, very helpful. Next name on the day would be FRGT. Really nice trade here. It was a 10-minute flag over the zone. So you guys can see we have this 10-minute wick to body zone. Here's our wick, here's our body. Connect them, extend it across the screen, wait for it to break above, and then wait for the retest. That's normally what I do. Exactly what happened here. We get our 10-minute downtrend break, close over it here. It was on the 5-minute when I was looking at it. That's why I almost said 5-minute, but whatever. We get a nice rally through our zone. We then get a nice 10-minute, you know, flag look here. This candle is kind of iffy, but it is what it is. I decided to put some on. Why? Because it was very low risk. I added 292, risking 285, and my stop loss wasn't hit. We came down to 285 exactly. We tapped 285, but then bidders stepped in and gave us that push right back up. The reason why I didn't exit right there at 285 is because one of my rules is this: you don't exit. If 285 is hit, I'm not just going to exit. I like to see the level break, and then I will exit my trade. Obviously, there's some times where you don't get that clean break and you don't have that chance to exit. You get caught in a flush. You know, it is what it is. It happens. It all comes down to, you know, reading the tape and trying to identify those things before they happen. But normally what I like to do is I like to wait for a 1-minute break below my stop. Then I like to see if that 1-minute candle closes below my level. If it does, then I like to exit, usually on the retest. But if it just falls through my level, then like 100% you have to get out. What are you going to do there? Anyways, so we get a nice pop here in a $2.99, $3 area. Peeled some off up there. We come down to 285. We didn't break 285, so I didn't stop out. Bidders step in, give us back that push to 3. End up getting a push here into 307. I had limits set 303 and 307. Hit a high of 309 on this candle. And then we come back down all the way to kind of 290 area, and that's when I sell out completely, because I was like, okay, hey, we just put on a lower high. We couldn't even get that extra penny to make that higher high. The stock is losing strength. Also, bidders were kind of starting to get weak. It was coming towards, you know, the end of the day, pretty typical. And that lower high really just kind of like, come on, you couldn't even make 1 penny higher. Like, really, you're that weak right now? And so that kind of made me want to sell out on this candle when it flushed all the way back into 290. And I did. I took the last piece off break even. I think it was like 294. So it was really like a 2-cent gain per share, but it's nothing. It's whatever. So that was another trade there. And then BFRG. This one was a tough one for me today. BFRG kind of had this flag look right here, except for this wick. Got long right here, got some scales out into 580 push, so I was long against 567s, I believe. Got some out into the 580 push here. And then, you know, we start cracking trend line. And as we start coming down to test this trend line, I get the remaining piece of my position out. Fast forward a little later, I notice we kind of formed this flag over here. Again, very low volume. I'm trying to buy off the zone reclaim. So we break below our zone, we reclaim our zone. I get long here, I believe it was 564 if I'm not mistaken. We end up breaking through our zone. This got me for a little more than I wanted to. Ended up flushing down into 550s, got me out into 550s, and then I didn't know that I still had some on because I thought I was scaling out. So I ended up getting my rest out. Ended up taking the loss all the way to 540s here. So this one kind of made me risk a little more than I wanted. I was playing with a little smaller size here, but wasn't planning to risk 540s or anything in the 540 area. But this thing just kind of flushed, and it just knocked me out. I really couldn't do anything about it. I just had to take it to the chin and move on. It is what it is. It happens. Got my rest off. I believe it was 447. It Was planning on risking 455, 450. I'm sorry, 550, 555. So it did get me for a little extra 5 cents. It is what it is. I stayed patient and waited for the next setup to present itself, and this was it right here. I noticed we had this downtrend after, I got over here. I'm like, man, why didn't this thing work? This thing should have worked. So I took a deep breath, looked at the chart, and I'm like, okay, hey, Sal, we got this clear downtrend. I don't know why you're trying to add, when there's no confirmation of the break. So I knew from there I needed to be patient. I knew from there I needed to wait for a downtrend break and a close above this trend line, and that's what I did here. I waited for our downtrend break. I waited for a 5-minute candle to get over it and close over our downtrend line. Exactly what happened here. I got long $5.54, and I rode this all the way up one shot into 580, and I sold everything at $5, and I believe it was 78 cents if I'm not mistaken. I believe there was 2 scales, yeah. So scaled some out here in the 560s, and then I took the rest off here in the 580s. Really nice trade there. Was able to kind of recoup majority of this little loss right here. And then we formed a flag up here, right here, high volume push, low volume pullback. Get long here. I was long $6.17. Peeled some off here into 630. I had limit 625, and I had another limit 630. They got hit, and then this candle comes out of nowhere and stops me out of my position at $6.10. So this basically was a break-even trade here, and I ended a little red on this name. Nothing crazy. It is basically break-even. It's nothing I'm upset about or anything. It is what it is, but it's just funny because I tried this name so many times. I thought I got it right. My edge shows up right when we break over highs. This is a clear thing to open up and continue higher, but it just didn't have the steam. I noticed when we came up here, volume was starting to diminish. We were coming into the close, a lot of algos being turned on. I noticed the walls were getting a little heavier, but I was like, hey, you know what? Let's just chill. Let's see if we get this break. It didn't chip. We end up flushing, and I end up stopping the remaining piece of my position. It is what it is. It happens. There's nothing we can do about it. All we can do is learn from it and try to avoid it the next time. But with that being said, guys, those are all my trades on the day today. Really nice one here on NCMI. This was the day maker for me. Definitely the breadwinner here. Hopefully we get some nice names to open up tomorrow. I'm definitely, trying to hit the gas a lot harder with these names, giving us the moves that they're giving us. But with that being said, guys, these are all my trades on the day. I hope to see you guys in the next recap. Peace.